Hello world, I'm Super AI and this is the second part of my fourth Python trading tutorial. So welcome to this second part. In this tutorial we continue to learn how to create a trading bot that can trade crypto or stock, which might use 6 technical indicators and 8 candlestick patterns in its trading strategy. To make the bot run you will only need to change 2 lines of code with your keys to Alpaca, and you won't need any money to run it, because we'll be using paper trading account. Now, if you haven't seen the first part you definitely should, because we're building here on top of the things we did in the first part. In the first part I showed you how to prepare the environment to work, how to install Anaconda, all the necessary libraries, etc. We created 2 strategies, and did the backtesting of these strategies for crypto and stock. I also showed you my first 100% win rate trading strategy. In this part in general, we'll create a live paper trading bot, based on one of the strategies from previous part. We'll test that bot with live paper trading of Bitcoin, Apple and Ethereum. I'll give you some tips on how to improve the bot, and I'll show you the second 100% win rate trading strategy. Just remember to watch the first part to understand what we are doing here, and that the bot created here is only for educational purposes. It uses paper account to trade, does not use real money, and this tutorial is not a financial advice for you, just a short programming tutorial. So, we finished the previous part with a strategy that was optimized during backtesting and ready to use by the live trading bot. And, during this part of tutorial we'll declare how much money to use during trading, declare whether to take profit and stop loss, create helper functions to take profit, stop loss, calculate technical indicators, calculate candlestick patterns, check if market is open for stock trading, check if it's time to buy or sell, wait for each minute to end for the bars to close. We'll create a function to run after a bot start running, and a function to run after every minute with new data. Finally we'll create a function to run the bot, and we'll run the bot. So let's start. So, as you can see, at the moment we have $100,000 in our account and no trades made. We can now declare how much money of the funds we want to use. We can connect to the API and calculate that amount. We'll be calculating that each time before we decide to buy some shares or coins. Now let's declare that we want to take profit no matter the trading signals. Just one thing before, our bot will be trading only based on data from closed bars and our indicators. It means it will not be monitoring the price every second. But if you want to monitor prices that often, you can check my previous tutorial for that, and change the appropriate things. Now, as you probably remember, we've declared how big the profit should be. So now we just calculate the price based on this profit. And in our function we check whether we hit the profit threshold. And if so we sell the shares or coins we have. The one thing worth mentioning here is sell order filled variable. It's here because we'll be working with live data, and sometimes we get some delays between actions we take. So this sell order filled will be our safety check, so we don't place 2 orders to sell the shares we have. The function is pretty much the same we used in our previous tutorial, so I won't get into more details. Now we do the same with the stop loss. We declare if we want to stop loss if the price goes below our threshold, no matter the trading signals. We calculate that stop loss, and create a function to execute this stop loss if necessary, and to inform us about the action the bot has taken and why. Now we create functions for calculating technical indicators and candlestick patterns. First, technical indicators. We get all the prices, volume, buy list time, sell time. We create variable close price to have easily accessible the last close price. And we start creating indicators. First goes the moving average. We calculate exponential moving average with our time frame optimized during backtesting. We round the MA to 2 places after comma, so to make it the same way it's used by vectorBT library. We take the last moving average, so we can print it out after every minute, and we repeat these steps for the fast and slow moving averages, with appropriate time frames. The next one is MACD. With TA library we calculate the MACD difference, and MACD signal, and we print out the last ones. Then we calculate RSI. This time we use momentum module from TA library. We also assign previously optimized RSI entry and exit thresholds to the appropriate variables, and we print out the last RSI. Now we move to stochastic. We calculate stochastic and stochastic signal, and assign previously optimized thresholds to the proper variables. Then we calculate Bollinger bands, both low and high. And finally we calculate money flow index, and we get their thresholds from optimization phase. And the function returns all the calculated indicators and previously optimized thresholds. Okay, now the candlestick patterns. With TA-lib library we search for 8 patterns. And for each pattern we print out if it gave us signal to buy. Plus 100. To sell. Minus 100. Or to do nothing. 0. We start here with buy patterns. Hammer, morning star and 3 white soldiers. Then we move to sell signals. Shooting star, evening star and 3 black crows. And finally we search for signals that can be either bullish or bearish. Engulfing and 3 outside. The function returns all the signals. The next function is only used for stock trading. It checks whether the market is open. It's between 9:30 and 4 p.m. in New York. If the market is closed, the function will stop the bot and tell us about it. Next, we have functions that will help us calculate if it's time to buy, abstain from buying, or sell based on previously declared buy-less and selling time. Now, we'll create a function to wait for bars to close. Because we are using data from bars, we want these bars to be closed. So this function will help us wait for these bars each minute to close. So we get proper data. We use here logic proposed in the post on Alpaca's website. We just modify it for our purposes. So, if you want to learn more about it, feel free to visit that website and read that interesting post. Now we can create a function that will be executed only once. After the bot starts running. At first we'll see how much money we have. Then we'll check if we have any shares or coins of the asset we want to trade. Then we'll calculate how much money to use for trading. After that we'll print out some information regarding taking profit and stopping loss. Just to be sure that it's like we want it to be. Then we'll check the trading hours. See if it's time to trade. And if we want to trade stocks we'll check if the market is open. And that concludes this function. Now we have the function that will run after every minute. After we get new data. So at first we print out the time that is in a given minute in New York. Then we'll prepare the data with the function we've previously used several times during backtesting. This time we'll get the data from last day or so. This notation, with 2 days before and 2 days after, is here just in case there are some differences in acquiring data. But it doesn't mean you get data from the future. You can adjust it so you don't get more data that you actually need. But you can also leave it like this and it should work. Now we create close price variable with last close price. We check if we have any shares or coins of declared asset. We recalculate the funds to use during trading at the moment. We calculate technical indicators. We calculate candlestick patterns. And we calculate final trade signal. We use the same create signal function, the brain of our bot, that we used before. And we pick the last final trade. We print out the decision made based on last final trade signal. Either to do nothing or to buy or to sell. And just in case we prepare for possible problems with calculating the signal. Now we implement the action based on the final decision. If we get the signal to buy we check if we have the position to buy. And if so we do nothing. But if we don't have any shares or coins of the asset we calculate how many shares we can buy with the funds we have. We round it to the full shares. By the way, this cash here is unnecessary. Because we calculated the funds previously. Then, if we want to buy cryptocurrency, we calculate how many coins we can buy. And we round it to the number of decimal places we declared previously. After we decide how many shares or coins we want to buy we submit an order. And now, be advised that because we used last close price to calculate how many shares or coins we can buy. And because of the delay in our actions, the calculated shares or coins might cost a bit more or less. That's why it's good not to allocate 100% of funds for trading. So if the cost of the shares is more than we anticipated, we still have some extra cash to pay for the difference. It's not that hard to do it differently. But for the purpose of this tutorial that's how we'll leave it. You can change it by yourself if you want. Now, if the signal is to sell we check if we have any shares or coins of the asset. And if so we submit an order to sell all of them. We also change the sell order field to true. Thanks to this, even if there is a delay in our selling process, we won't be executing take profit or stop loss function, which take this argument under consideration before acting. And that is the whole onMessage function. Just one more thing about the names of onOpen and onMessage function. These names come from previous tutorial, during which we were using streaming data with WebSocket library. And that's how they were handled. So the names here might be different. But I think they are quite appropriate. Anyway, now, the onMessage function is finished. We can run this cell, and create one last function to run the bot. We'll call this function Super AI Trading Bot. Nice, isn't it? This function simply runs the onOpen function at first, makes the bot wait for the bar to close, and then until something goes wrong or someone stops it, runs the onMessage function after every closed bar received. And that's it. Now we are ready to start the bot. So let's do it. Let's start the bot. After we do it, we see all the info from the onOpen function. We can see here how much money we have, how many shares, coins of the chosen asset we have, how much money we'll use for that trading at the moment, what stock, crypto we want to trade. We can see how big we declared our take profit and stop loss, and what it means in practice. And we wait for the bar to close. So now we can wait for some time to get enough data to see if it works as it should. Now, after a couple of minutes we get enough data to see what happens during our trading. So after every minute we see what time it is, what is the price, how much funds we have to use, and all the indicators and candlestick patterns calculated. Just remember that you see them even if you don't use some of them. We also see the final trading signal, and the decision made based on this signal. At the end we see how much time till next closed bar. If we see the sell signal, but we don't have anything to sell, we get information about it. We can check why we got that signal if we want. And if we get a signal to buy, we see the buying. We see how much shares or coins we bought, how big the buying price was, what are the take profit and stop loss prices, and if we hit them and sold our shares or coins. And as you can see, hit the stop loss price the same minute we bought our bitcoins. So our stop loss percentage is probably a bit too high. So now we can go to our Alpaca dashboard and see what happened there. As you can see, for a moment the trades are not shown here yet. But after a second, we can see that we bought Bitcoin and sold Bitcoin, and lost first paper trading money. We can check our activities and see all the trades. So for now we can go back to overview and to our bot and stop it because we know it works. We can check why we bought the Bitcoins when we bought them. And here we can see that it was because the close price was lower than lower Bollinger Band. So there it is. Now we can move to trading Apple. For that we'll go to the beginning of our program, and change some things to optimize the strategy for this trading. It's important to understand that strategy that is best optimized for one asset might not be best optimized for other asset. So, we change the asset to trade to Apple stock. We'll download the data for backtesting from Yahoo. We leave the brain of the bot, create signal function the same. No changes in take profit stop loss percentage. If you want to change the trading hours, buyless or sell time, you can do it now in our function. And we can use that function and change the time to buy and sell. And see that it happened. We leave the shifted function as it was. And set all the basic parameters to the way they were before optimizing for Bitcoin. We can check if it worked. Now, we don't have to reinstall or re-import anything. We keep the connection parameters as they were. And we leave unchanged the parameters and dates for downloading. You can run this cell if you previously changed the dates for validation phase in here. The function for preparing data is okay. And now we can download the data to see how it differs from the data we were using with Bitcoin. The most important change is that we will need only data from 9:30 to 4 p.m. and only from days when the stock exchange in New York was working. So here we get much less data. What you should know is that if you are watching this tutorial after the 9th of July 2022, you might get problems downloading old data from Yahoo, because Yahoo allows you only to download data from last month. In that case, simply change the data source to Alpaca. You can add a cell above and simply type data_source equals Alpaca in quotes. Or if you want to use Yahoo, you could change the dates. It means choose the dates from last month in your time. You should also know that Alpaca and Yahoo have different ways of understanding dates. Yes, I know it might seem strange, but that's how it is. So you probably won't get the same data I got. And if you have the same dates and change data source, you will get different data. That's why the next step is also important. Now we can change the time zone of the data, and see that we have data from the hours we wanted. Remember that if you want, with Alpaca you could also get data from pre or after market. Now we can plot our data. This time it shouldn't be the never-ending stream of bars, but we only get bars from the working days from. We can zoom in to see the data more clearly. And here we choose only data from 9:30 to 4 p.m. Now, if you used Yahoo for downloading data, you only got data from these hours from the start. But if you used Alpaca for downloading, you also got data from pre-market and after market. And that's why we cleaned that data over here. And here is our final plot. Now we choose the time when we don't want to buy no matter what. In our case it's 9:30 till 9:45 and 15:55 till 4 p.m. And we add buyless time column to our data frame. We do the same with sell time. And we check if it worked. And yes, it did. Now we will skip the adding of all technical indicators and candlestick patterns, because you already know how and why we do it. And we move to backtesting. We leave the super AI signals function as it is. We leave the same parameters to optimize. And our custom indicator. And we can start testing the prototype. We prepare the data. We run our custom indicator to create trading signals. And we can check if we got any. And yes, we did. Now we assign entries and exits, where the bot should buy and sell. We create portfolio from our function. And we check our returns. We can also see all the trades at the plot. And we can see all the stats. How much we earned, how many trades we made, how big our win rate was. Almost 51%. Not bad, not great. Now we can optimize the parameters. Assign entries and exits. Create portfolio. Calculate returns. See the overall stats of all possible combinations of parameters. Individual returns, max drawdown, Sharpe ratio. As previously, apply the best parameters. We can choose if we want parameters for the best returns, drawdown, Sharpe ratio, and see how they differ. We choose parameters for the max returns. We can see these max returns and all the stats. We can plot the trades and returns to see how it was changing in time. And we can also validate the model with previously unseen data. We can run the validation and check if the results are satisfying. And in this example they are not, because our strategy worked worse than the benchmark. Now we can also plot the trades and see how we were losing money. And normally we would try another strategy, but we'll use this one for live paper trading in a moment anyway. Because it's just to show that it works, not that it guarantees profits. So, we leave the same percentage of our funds. And we leave all the functions we used previously as they were. We only update our buy list time and sell time. And leave the rest as it was. Now, we can finally run the bot. So we will be trading Apple now. We can see the basic info after we run the bot. And we can check how our dashboard in Alpaca looks like at the moment. We can see how much money we have, our order history, no orders for stocks yet. And we can wait for the first minute to finish, to see if we get our data and if the bot works properly. After we confirm that the bot works, we can let the bot work, and we can think how we could improve it. Oh, and in a moment we'll test it with Ethereum to see if we can buy fractions of coins. But now we can move to the tips for improving the bot. So, I'll give you some tips you could use by yourself. Oh, and unfortunately we won't be testing these improvements here, because this tutorial is already too long. Anyway, the first tip is simple. Create and test different trading strategies. Use more complex combinations of indicators. But remember not to overcomplicate things. If you don't know which strategy might be the best, check the internet. There are some really great articles to read. That will help you with that. If you want to change the strategy we used here, as you know, you can simply uncomment a condition, or comment out another. You can test the strategy with all the sub-conditions, or with only one to know how that one works. You can also change yours to ands in any place you want. You can add your own conditions, etc. Just remember about the parentheses, because they make huge difference. Like in our buying strategy, one can say that two conditions need to be met. 1. It can't be the buy list time. 2. We need to get a signal from indicators or candlestick patterns. But if we mess the parentheses, we might end up with completely different strategy. Have fun playing with these conditions. Now that you know how you can change your strategy, you might want to read more about the most common strategies, or the best strategies for beginners, etc. Investopedia seems a good place to start the readings, so let's check one of these articles. I won't read it here for you. I just want to show to those of you who don't know it yet, that there is a lot of cool tips regarding indicators and strategies. Like that it's good to use different types of indicators in strategy. For example, one momentum and one trend indicator. You can learn how you can use the indicators you choose, because you can use the same indicator in various ways, and that some indicators are good for signaling things, other are good for confirming, etc. And it might be quite fun now that you know how to apply them in your bot. To check and test how these indicators and strategies actually work, during backtesting with specific stock or coin and not in theory. Okay, so the second tip is about testing more parameters for each indicator. That means to, for example, test RSI, moving average with different windows, like not only with last 14 minutes, 50, 200, but also with all in between 14 and 200. And you can do it with our bot simply by changing one line of code. You can take the line you see here and paste it in the proper place. The idea is to change the range and the step. So with this first line you can test 40 different parameters from 10 to 49. And you change the step or the range in all the lines here. That way you can test different windows or thresholds. The one thing you need to know about this testing of hundreds of parameters is, it might take a lot of time if you want to do it. So if you don't have the supercomputer at home, you might want to use external resources for the cloud computing. It can be Google Colab or something similar. There is a lot of possibilities and each has its pros and cons. I won't tell you what to use, but if you have experience with any of these, you might share your experience with others in the comments. Okay, so the third tip is to test different metrics to optimize. I've shown you here returns, drawdown and Sharpe ratio, but we only used returns. You can test other two by simply changing one line, or test other metrics. To choose the best metric at first you can read about them. And once again, you can try reading at Investopedia about them. You see, returns can tell you how much money you could get in total. Drawdowns can tell you how much you could lose. Other metrics can include assessing risks, etc. So after reading about them, you can choose the one you like, or you might even create your own if you want. vectorBT library is quite comprehensive when it comes to metrics. So you can visit their website and browse it to see what they offer you. And choose the one you like. You might also check the web for some articles and videos explaining vectorBT in more details. Good luck and have fun with them. Now, the fourth tip is about adding more indicators and candlestick patterns, or replacing these I used here. I tried to use the top technical indicators that beginners are using. But if you are not a novice anymore, and want to test another indicator or candlestick pattern, you can do it quite easily, I think. Before choosing the indicators or patterns you should probably learn something about them. For candlestick patterns there is, for example, Cool website, which shows you the best performing patterns. Of course this performance was measured in some period, and might not be the same right now, but still it's a good place to start your research. You can check each of the shown patterns in details, and choose the one you like, based on its performance and frequency. That means how often it appears during trading. Before adding or changing the technical indicators, you might want to check the documentation of TA library. You will find them nicely divided into categories: momentum, volume, volatility, trend and other indicators. In each category you can find the classes and functions for specific indicators, with quite useful explanations. If you want to add or change the candlestick pattern, you might also want to check the documentation of TA-lib library. You can find on their website all the patterns you can use. So for example, if you want to change the hammer pattern that we use in our bot, you can replace it with another buy pattern, like 3 stars in the south. You just need to find all the CDL hammers, and replace them with CDL 3 stars in the south. The hammers appear in several places, so it's good to use finding tool to replace all the appearances. So we find the first hammer, move to it, and replace with our stars. Then we go to another hammer, and repeat the action, and so on and so on. Anyway, for now, we'll stay with the hammers, but if you want stars you know how to get them, and that's it about this tip. Now the next tip is about using more data for backtesting. To use more data you simply need to change the start and end dates. Of course, you need to remember about the limitations of Yahoo and Alpaca, and keep in mind that using 1-minute data means getting much more bars from 1 week than there is bars in 7 years of 1-day data. And of course, the more data you use the more you'll have to compute. So you will need more time or more powerful machine, probably for cloud computation. Now my next tip regards tackling overfitting with walk-forward optimization. So at first you might want to learn more about this technique, which basically divides data into chunks, analyzes these chunks, and use these analysis to create better final decision regarding the parameters. It might not seem as much, but it's a really powerful technique that might help you get much better results. vectorBT library allows you to make this walk-forward optimization. They even have an example on how to use it, with step-by-step Jupyter notebook, that shows you what happens when you do this optimization. So if you want to improve your bot, this might be a good way to do it, with walk-forward optimization. Now, the next tip is about making it all more real. That in this case means adding costs of trading. Till now we were using null fees. But in real life we would have to probably pay after every transaction. And that means that some transactions might just not be worth it. So we can find all the places where we had fees set to 0 and change it appropriately. It's also good to read about these fees. When they appear, what types of the fees there are, why, how they differ, etc. Okay, and these are the all tips I have for you at the moment. Now we can go back to our bot and see how it worked. If it bought anything, sold anything, gained or lost money. And as we can see, for now nothing happened. So now we can leave the bot working for a couple of hours and go for a break. Maybe have some fun not in front of the computer. Or not. Anyway. Here we are back after 5+ hours to see what happened. We can see info from all the minute bars. And see that it's 15:54 and we still have some shares. That we'll sell next minute no matter what. Because we declared previously that after 15:55 we sell all we have. And buy nothing more. And here we go. We sell our shares and our trading day with Apple is over. Now we can go to Alpaca dashboard. And see how the plot looks like. How much money we have etc. And as you can see it doesn't look good. We did have some gains at the beginning. But then it was just a way down. And we've lost more than $1,000. We can see the history of our trades. And we can check them in our activity log. We did some trading so we know that we got some signals to buy and sell. But our strategy wasn't the best. We can now check the specific trades. And see what happened during the minutes we made those trades. So we go to 12:27 when we bought some shares. And we can see the price. What our indicators were signaling. And why we bought the shares. Because of the candlestick pattern. We can check another buy and see why we bought the shares then. Etc. etc. Now, when the time comes, the 4 p.m., our bot should stop working. And the Apple trading day will be officially over. So we can honestly say that it could have been better. And think what we could do better next time. But before that, as you can see here, it's already after 4 p.m. and our bot didn't stop working. That's not a good sign. It means that we have some kind of bug. And I think it's that. We do check if market is open at the beginning. But then we don't do that after every minute. So we should copy that checking to our onMessage function. And this should do the job. Unfortunately we won't be able to check that now. Because after we restart our bot, we'll use the checking from the onOpen function. And I don't want to delete it to test it without it. But I'm pretty sure it'll work fine. So let's restart the bot. We should of course rerun the cell with the onMessage function. And we can see that the bot knows it's time to rest at the moment. Okay, so now let's test if we can buy fractions of Ethereum. This time we won't be changing the strategy, nor optimizing it for Ethereum, because we only want to test if it works. And we can do that with the indicators and parameters we have. So, as I told you before, there is info at Alpaca website, where we can check the lowest amount of Ethereum to trade. So let's run the bot with 3 decimal places. We can see that now we are trading Ethereum. And that till now we haven't traded any of it. And let's wait for a couple of minutes to see if it works. And yes, after some time we got some buy signals. After the last one we bought 52.413 Ethereum coins. And the same minute we hit the stop loss threshold. Not the best threshold as you can see. And we sold the coins. We can see the trades we made in the dashboard. And we can find the first buy we made. And eventually stop the bot now that we know it works with fractions. We can once again see our activities. And that's it. Now we know that our bot can buy whole shares of stocks, buy whole coins or fractions of coins based on the logic we created. So now there is only one thing left. It's time for these trading strategies. And especially the one with 100% win rate trading strategy I promised. Okay, so the first one I've explained you in the first part of this tutorial. So I won't repeat myself here. Just know that what you are seeing here is pretty much the same thing you saw in the first part of this tutorial. Originally here is when I wanted to show you this strategy. But during editing I've decided that the tutorial was too long. So I've pasted this strategy before our live trading session. So, once again, if you haven't seen the first part of this tutorial, and you want to know more about this strategy, you can watch it for that. And now we move to the second 100% win rate trading strategy. And here it goes. We are still trading Apple stock. We use Alpaca to download the data. We leave the parameters at their basic levels. With this strategy we buy when there is time to buy and while MACD is lower than 0, MACD crosses over MACD signal. And it's written here as MACD lower than 0. And last MACD is higher than last MACD signal. And MACD from last minute is lower or equal to MACD signal. And we wait for the moment when the moving averages are going up. That is written here as last MA is higher than MA from a minute before. And MA from a minute before is higher than MA from 2 minutes before. And that is our buying strategy. Our selling strategy is to sell when it's time to sell according to our sell time. Or both stochastic and RSI are higher than their exit thresholds. Or last close price is higher than higher Bollinger Band. And the same time MFI is higher than its exit threshold. And that's the whole logic. Much less complicated than the previous one, I dare say. So now let's prepare the data for the backtest. Let's generate our trading signals. Calculate portfolio. During this test we don't use take profit or stop loss logic. We only buy and sell when our indicators tell us to do. Or when it's time to sell. And we can see the stats. And here we go. 66.666% win rate. Not bad, but not 100. So let's change a bit our strategy to get to that 100. We only need to change the way we calculate our so-called mini trend. That is the change in moving average. Now we'll only buy when MA is higher than MA from 2 minutes before. And the same time, MA from 2 minutes before is higher than the one from 4 minutes before. And that's it. Now let's test it once more. We don't need to download new data at the moment, so we simply run our backtest. And there we go. 100% win rate. Hooray. We did it again. And we've earned over $700. So now let's test the strategy with a bit more data. Let's say a month. And run the backtest one more time. And for this month we get 100% again. And we made 4 trades during that time. So now let's plot it. And see all the trades. While looking on the plot you might think if you are satisfied with this strategy. And meanwhile let's find what win rate for this strategy we get for first 5+ months of 2022. And here we get only 62.5%. And we actually lost money during this time. With our 16 trades. So as you can see the strategy worked with 100% win rate for less than 5 months. That's longer than the previous one and it was much more elegant than the previous one. So remember, a lot of strategies can have 100% win rate. But always for a time. And this time can last 1 week or 1 month. But eventually it will pass. Probably. Now, you can try to improve this strategy in the ways we saw before. Or try a completely new strategy. I hope that with the tools you got here you will be able to do it on your own. Good luck with that. And that's it for this part of the tutorial. And the end of my 4th Python trading tutorial. I hope you liked it. Now it's time for your part, testing it at home. Or it's time for a break. During this break you can visit my websites if you want. Or have fun in other ways. To download the program you can simply visit my website, superai.pl, and go to the courses. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully see you soon. And remember to subscribe to see more of my tutorials. And other videos. Yours, Super AI.